and adhere to his commandments. So the first thing in Jewish law, not in philosophy, not in any other book, but he puts this as the first primary commandment: to know and to believe in God. It's very interesting to note that Maimonides understands that the mitzvah of belief in God, which originates from the first commandment, I am God your God, who took you out of Egypt and the house of bondage. And Maimonides understands that this mitzvah, to believe in God, is not just to believe in God, as we'll soon explain. However, the first thing is to understand and prove in your mind till you are convinced logically that God must exist. Contrary to the popular way of thinking that it's a matter of belief, Jewish law says believing in God is not believing in his existence. Believing in God's existence means something much more, as we'll soon explain. But the first primary thing as a command is a person has to study and do research and meditate till he finally is convinced that God, the idea of God must exist. In other words, before we even open up a book of Jewish law, it's based on our inherent belief in God that we are born with. The Jewish people are called Maiminim B'nei Maiminim. We are believers, the children of believers. The belief in God that we are born with is something that's not a command. This is something that is in our soul. Our soul believes in God because our soul witnessed God. Before we came down on this world, we originated from the most lofty spiritual worlds. And as we state in every day in the morning prayer, God, my soul, originates in the most purest, holiest level. And when we were in this level, without a body, before we came down, our soul witnessed God. As if you saw something, and it's so powerful, something that you see, that you could never forget it, and no one could refute it, because you yourself experienced it. So belief in God is something that we have because it's something that we all experienced. And on a deeper level, not only did we experience seeing God, our soul really is a part of God. And therefore, we don't need any convincing. The reason that we have a commandment to believe and to understand is not because we need to be convinced, and if I logically will prove it, then I'll really believe it. The belief that we have is always there, and it can't be any stronger. It may be that it needs to be revealed, it needs to be experienced, but the basic belief in God is that's who we are, and that's what makes us Jewish. We have a neshama, and a neshama, a godly soul, experienced God and is one with God. The reason that we have a commandment to understand and to prove God's existence. And we must do this. This is a command, an active command that we must apply our mind to understand till we come to a conclusion that God must exist. The reason why we have this command is because God wants us to serve Him not only with action, but our mind and heart should be involved too. If the idea of God, the belief in God, would not be understood and can't be proven, then our mind is really not serving God. Our mind realizes that we have a belief, but the mind is not convinced, and therefore the mind is not serving God. The only way to serve God with our mind and with our heart is by applying our mind to search, to meditate, and this is a growing process. Every day in our lives we have to search God and prove His existence, and every day we could grow and understand more and prove more. The belief in God, which is a command, the first commandment of the 10 Commandments, that belief is not, like many people say, just blind belief. This comes after we understand as much as we can. And after that, we believe that God is much greater than what I could prove. And as we grow day after day and understand more of God, our belief grows too. Because what I yesterday needed to believe, today I understand that and I could prove it. So my belief today is on something much more. I believe that God is much more than what I understood today. So belief is not, the mitzvah of belief is not just believing. It comes after we have the basic belief, and then we search and prove God's existence and prove many things about God. After that, we believe that God is much greater than whatever I could prove. In matter of fact, the word belief in Hebrew is emunah. One of the translations of the word emunah comes from the root imun, work. Belief is not something that just comes natural. The mitzvah of emunah is after I applied my mind and I grow in understanding more and more about God. I grow and work to a higher level of belief, that I believe now that even what I prove today, I could, let's say, prove today logically that God must be infinite, God must be eternal, God is beyond time, beyond space. That you can prove logically. The belief that I have today is that God is much more than the fact that He is eternal, that He's a creator, or anything that I could prove. In matter of fact, the fact that we call God the creator, that is not a definition for God. God is a creator too. But to say that God's existence is based on the fact that He's a creator, God always existed before there was a world, and God's existence is not pending on anything and any particular greatness that we could ever imagine. So in conclusion, the first